Hello, welcome back to HunterTuned. Today we are at the shop. Me and the girlfriend came out here today and actually cleaned up quite a bit out here. We got the S10 Baja truck. Been working on this the last couple days, haven't really filmed a whole lot of it. We took the transmission in and out, and we got a good transmission in this truck now, so that is awesome. We also replaced the spark plugs and some other little things on the truck here. But it is running a lot better than when I bought it, and now it goes forward and backward instead of just forward, because the transmission was bad in it. But so we got that dialed in. Did a couple customer cars the last couple days. There was a Nissan that was in here on Mega Squirt, and I did a dirt circle track car that was had a VTEC oil pressure issue that we fixed. Actually, we didn't fix it. I kind of told him what the issue was, and he went back and found out that the center O-ring on the center cam cap, it was missing. So the VTEC would work when it was cold, but when the car warmed up, it would lose VTEC. So I don't know. Anyways, we've been busy as shit out here, guys. So I haven't really filmed a whole lot. I apologize, but I figured I'd give you guys a video today and probably tomorrow too on this EK hatch that we are working on. Christine doesn't want to be filmed. But this is an EK hatch with a GSR turbo in it. It's got an eBay turbo kit and some other goodies. We have it up on the lift right now, and we are getting a few things buttoned up on it. So this car came in for some tuning, and of course we're going to fix some things on it before we tune it, because I don't really like tuning stuff unless it's top notch, at least close to top notch, so we don't break anything. And then you know, I don't like fingers coming back at me kind of thing. So we're just going to do our best to get this thing up and running as best as we can and as safe as we can. So another timing belt issue on another car here. I know one of the last cars that we worked on, at least that I filmed, we did get the time. No, you don't have to rip that wheel off. You don't have to rip that wheel off. One of the last cars that we were working on also had a timing belt issue that was too tight. This one is the opposite problem. It is actually too loose, and it's actually walking off of the cam gears. If you guys can see that, the timing belt is walking off towards the driver's side of the car. So we have to actually put a washer. There's two washers on the bottom side of the timing belt, and he's missing one of those washers. So we're gonna have to take the crank pulley off of this thing, take the alternator belt off, the timing cover, rip all that stuff off, and then put it all back together with the washer, and then just double check the timing, and then retension the timing belt, because this thing is super loose. I don't know if you guys can see on camera, but super loose, too loose actually. So we're gonna have to fix that. We'll double check, make sure this thing's in time, and then we're gonna put some plugs in it, and he's got a set of injectors that we're gonna throw in. And yeah, pretty basic eBay kit. Has blocks, cast iron turbo manifold, tiled gate, eBay 50 trim, and full exhaust, I think. Car's got some good goodies on it. Skunk 2 intake manifold and throttle body. I'm filming over there. I'm right here. Long day. Anyways, Skunk 2 alpha radiator, some Avid solid mounts, and yeah, Greddy blow-off valve, 2.5-inch intercooler piping kit. It looks like an eBay front mount. And yeah, so without further ado, we're gonna get rolling on this thing and get some of this stuff apart. I'm gonna kind of show Christine what to do here. We got our underhood shop light here from Menards for $10. How much are underhood shop lights at Harbor Freight? They're like $100 bucks, I think. At least 50. I don't know. You would know. Don't you know everything? Okay, so anyways, we got to take the crank pulley off here. So you're going to take that same socket and you're going to hit this bolt right here. It's a 19 mil, same as the lug nuts. Verify that we have the keyway installed. The keyway is installed. So now we got to take the alternator belt off. I tell you what, guys, we're gonna be working in the shop in a damn t-shirt this winter. This place heats up so well with just this heater for this whole building. It heats it awesome. We've had it on for like 3 to 4 minutes, and it went up 10 degrees already. So I'm really stoked about that. Okay, so now we have to take the alternator nut off, which is a 12 millimeter. So we get at that with a wrench, 12 mil wrench. Grab another one for leverage. Why not? 12 mil on the alternator, the adjustment nut right here. We gotta pop this off. There we go. So now that that's loose, we'll see if we get lucky and it pushes forward. Nope. Okay, so we have a 14 mil on the bottom of the alternator that we also have to grab. So we'll go back up with the car now. Having a lift is very nice instead of like crawling down or jacking down. right, so now that the car is in the air, we can check out everything down here too, but we got to grab this 14 millimeter bolt on the bottom of the alternator. We got to make sure that that is loose.
You need a fancy dancy light under here.
I know, I gotta invest in some lights. Like some actual like shop lights or like work lights. Okay, so now that that's loose, the alternator will come forward. There we go, alternator belt is off. Now we can take the crank pulley off the rest of the way. Watch out for the keyway, which it's stuck in there, so that's okay. We'll just leave it in. This is a thing to be concerned about, is the chips on the crank pulley here. That can sometimes affect the dampening of the crank pulley. The crank pulley's job is to dampen vibration from the crankshaft here. And if we have chips in there, it sometimes can get off balance and wobble, but I think it'll be all right for now. Okay, so it looks like we have one bolt that holds this on. I like his style. Oh, 2 bolts, damn it. Actually, I always tell people put 2 bolts in the timing cover. But don't bother putting all fucking 8 of them in or whatever it is, because that'd just be stupid. Why would you put all the bolts back in? New gas tank. We got some EMUSA lower control arms and tie bar. Yo, BWR coilovers. Thing's pretty nice. You know, you tell if the fucking Civic's clean? The brake lines. They're not all rusty. Oh, back here they're a little rusty. We just won't show that. All right, guys. So we put the, so we got the timing belt washer installed, and now when we go to put the cover and the crank pulley back on, this washer is actually going to push the timing belt aligned where it needs to be. So we're going to do that and just spin the engine over by hand until we get to top dead center, and then we'll find out if this thing is in time and make sure that the belt is tensioned properly and all that. So there is a mark on the oil pump. I've shown this 100 times, but there is a mark on the oil pump right about where my finger is here, and then you line that up with the mark on the crank gear, which is right where my finger is here. So we're going to put the washer over, and that will align everything where it needs to be.
How would you describe this color?
Neochrome.
Oh, I like it. Reminds me of a mermaid.
So we just double checked the cam timing, lining everything up to make sure that we are on and true, which we are 100%. Okay, so when we tighten the timing belt, we want to make sure that we have all the slack on the tension side. Which means this side should have little to no play, and this side's got all the play.
Again.
Look how perfect that belt is now. Perfect tension, perfect alignment. That's why you come to HunterTuned, we get them right. We fix them the right way, right? Whatever, we fix them the way that works. All right, guys, so it's the next day now. I'm back out at the shop, and we're out messing with the EK here again. And I just wanted to make sure that we have good compression on this engine, and we have to change the spark plugs out anyways. But we did get the timing belt situation figured out, and that's all good to go now. But the next thing is just I ripped out all the spark plugs. Now I'm going to put the compression tester on it, make sure this engine is healthy, and if it's not, just to warn the guy or whatever, or maybe see if it needs a valve lash. The engine sounds very smooth. It doesn't smoke or anything like that. So I'm assuming that we'll be okay, but we're just going to double check for good measure here, do a compression test. And it's a good thing I did, because we always usually check the spark plugs on any of these turbo Hondas, because they usually like to have a little bit colder spark plug, and the gap needs to be closed up quite a bit. So the plugs that were in it, I kind of hate seeing these in a Honda, but it has auto lights. And Hondas don't run very well with auto light spark plugs, at least from my opinion. And the gap is about 70 thousandths from 50 to 70 thousandths, just for me eyeballing it. So ditching those spark plugs, we're going to throw some BKR7E NGK V-Power spark plugs in it, and we're going to gap them down to about 18, 20 thousandths. That's what we're going to go on this thing. And yeah, So without further ado, I'm going to get the compression tester hooked up, unplug the injectors, and do a compression test on this thing. Alright guys, so without tuning or doing anything to this car other than pulling it into the shop, the compression test actually is coming back a little bad. So far, I have done the number 1 and number 2 cylinders. So number 1 cylinder came back with about 130 PSI, which is good in my opinion, especially with like a little Harbor Freight tester here. The second cylinder is at 65 PSI of compression, which is too low. Let's just hope it's a valve lash issue. I'm pretty sure it is a valve lash issue. I'm really hoping. So yeah, first cylinder was 130, second one was 65, and now I'm going to move on to doing the third cylinder here. This cylinder is also at 60, same as the number 1 cylinder. So 1 and 4, both 130. Center 2's not so hot, 60 PSI of compression. So next step is we're going to rip the valve cover off of this thing. We already verified the cam timing is right on the timing belt, so we're not having an issue there, but this motor does sound kind of like, I wouldn't say it sounds stumbly, but it sounds almost Subaru-ish. Like it's just kind of weak in the center holes. And those two come up at the same time, so it's, you know, it might just sound different because the valve lash might be too tight. I don't know. So we're going to rip the valve cover off here and figure out what's going on. I just did the valve lash on this thing and kind of went over it. It was all good. Some of them were just a smidge too tight. Nothing really to ride home about. They were like, you know, a thou off, 2 thou maybe. So they weren't off by a lot, but I did want to just try it to see if we could get the compression to come back. And unfortunately, those center 2 cylinders are still pretty low, 60 and 65. And then the outside ones are both good at about 130 PSI. So I know different compression testers read differently than others, but the main thing you want to look for when you're doing compression tests on an engine is just to make sure they are even and you know, above like 100. And usually you're good if they're even and above 100, etc. So what I'm thinking now, that it's not the valve lash, and maybe they had a previous timing belt issue, because this car does have a brand new timing belt on it. This motor could have had timing belt failure, and it ended up bending the valves in the center 2 cylinders there. So that may be what it needs. It just doesn't make sense that it would be a piston ring issue or anything like that, because the thing doesn't smoke whatsoever. So I don't think it's that. I think it's maybe just bent valves in the cylinder head and or a head gasket issue. So he did mention that the car was overheating, so that could be another part of it, that maybe the head gasket is smoked in those center 2 cylinders there, but I'm not sure. So I did just warn the customer I can send it as is and just tune it really soft and see, you know, if everything holds up. But I'm not sure what he's going to want me to do now, so we're going to have to talk with the customer, see what they want to do, and go from there, because obviously I don't want anything like this to come back at me. That's why I'm, you know, getting better at trying to do this stuff before I tune a car, because if I tune a car that already has issues like this thing's got low compression, like it's hurt, the motor's already hurt. If we put boost to it, it's just going to get hurt more. Like there's no way around it. Sometimes you get lucky, but it's not as common as it working out. So anyways, yeah, so we're going to put these Deech Work injectors in this thing as well and get plugged into the chip P28 and throw some spark plugs in it. Alrighty guys, just talked with the customer and we got the okay to send it. So I did kind of talk it over with him, and those valves are probably bent in the cylinder head because it's the center 2. The center 2 pistons come up at the same time. If the head was messed up or something, or the timing was way off, those center 2 are going to hit the valves. And it just makes sense that the cylinder head is the culprit here for the problem. And I just warned him. I said that we obviously can offer him a cylinder head rebuild and fix the valves that are in there. I offered that to him. He declined and said just because it's getting close to winter and he's not going to drive the car really anyways, he just wanted to get it tuned up and the injectors installed and just kind of get it making boost and get it down the road kind of thing. So that's what we're going to do, and then he's going to be coming back either over the winter or early springtime to get rebuild on the cylinder head or rebuild on the whole engine possibly. So we will be hopefully seeing this car soon, but for now, like I said, for the time being, we're just going to be putting spark plugs in it, putting injectors in, and tuning it just how we normally would. But like I said, did warn the customer that those valves are indeed bent, and yeah, without further ado, we're going to send it. All right, guys, moving on with the car, we have all the new injectors installed into the car. So we had to wire in the clips on the pigtails as well. Just took some solder, heat shrinked it, and then just taped over the existing bare wires, or not the bare wires, but just the existing coated wiring. Just put some tape around some of that to make it look a little nicer. And now we are actually installing wideband into this car. He has a innovative wideband installed into the car currently, but it is not working. So we are going to be installing my tuning wideband. That way we know it's going to be good. I trust my wideband more than anybody else's wideband, just because I've used this wideband on many different cars. So I'm just going to be installing my wideband into it, like I said. That way I just have a little bit of peace of mind and we can get proper air fuel readings while we're tuning. So I just got the sensor installed into the test pipe here. All this is good to go. There's no exhaust leaks on this setup. Tell the sensor, so that's what we need to know, is if there's any exhaust leaks before the sensor, then you'll have issues. This car does scrape a little bit, but this doesn't actually leak. So that's just one thing that I always tell people to look for, is to make sure that the setup doesn't have exhaust leaks before the sensor, because otherwise you'll get skewed readings. So yeah, anyways, we're going to get the car back down on the ground, hook the wideband up into the car, and then we're going to hook up the Ostrich into the chip P28, tell it what size injectors we have, and then go for a rip. Alrighty guys, so I got the laptop plugged into this car, and we zip tied my wideband next to his. So we are reading here. I got the air fuel set up. We got it tuned on Chrome Gold, Chrome dealer version, whatever. The fancy version of Chrome, which still sucks, but it works. So we have this thing idling pretty good. I went through the timing tables and the fuel tables, did injector sizing, and I just got done setting the idle, because the idle, when he first brought it to me, it did not idle this smooth. He actually had to open up the idle air screw to get it to run, so that just told me that the throttle body needed a little bit of adjustment. So I took the stop screw. I showed you guys this on one of the last videos, but it's like literally every single Honda that comes in, it's what I have to do. So I did that, and now the thing is sitting here purring like a kitten, so that is good. And yeah, I think we are ready to hit the road. All right guys, so we are back working on the car here, and as you guys can see, we have some antifreeze coming out of it, because I actually drained all the antifreeze out of this thing, because when I took it for a drive down the road, it started to overheat on me, and I was like, okay, what the hell's going on here? So I popped the hood after I got back, and the top radiator hose was hot, like boiling hot, and the bottom one was stone cold, like outside temperature cold. So obviously, what do you think to yourself? Okay, the thermostat is stuck shut. So I just made sure that it was bled. So I tried putting my coolant funnel on it, and I have the car jacked up in the air to get the coolant level above the engine, which is what you need to do to get all the air pockets out of it. I did that to no success. It still was just boiling in the cylinder head, like the top radiator hose was just hot. The bottom hose was not. So I pulled the thermostat out of it just to check what was going on, and when I pulled the thermostat out of it, the thermostat was open when I pulled it, like 5 minutes after the car shut off. So that tells me the thermostat is working fine, but that doesn't explain the lower hose being cold. So the only way the lower hose could be cold and the thermostat is working would mean that the water pump is not flowing the water. And it would make sense, because when you fill the motor up with coolant, all the coolant that's sitting in the cylinder head and in the block there is just stationary. It's not moving. It's not able to cycle through the radiator and back around if the water pump is not working. So I have seen before on some cars where the water pump, the fins will be like corroded away, and the fins will just be gone. So literally it won't cycle any water. So I'm hoping that that's the issue. But then again, I'm thinking to myself, it could be head gasket because the 2 center cylinders on this engine are low compression. So it could be head gasket and water pump, or just water pump, or just head gasket. But for the lower hose to be cold, it just really leads me to believe that it's the water pump. It's tough. It's tough to know here. So yeah, I will. I'm gonna go get a water pump and put it in there just because we want this thing to work, and I feel like we don't have any circulation of water. Even if the head gasket was bad, it doesn't cycle antifreeze. It doesn't seem like it's cycling antifreeze through the system. So yeah, there's that. I'm gonna go get a water pump and let you guys know what I find. Sorry, it's just kind of a long-winded video, but it is what it is. It's what happens when you work on cars. Alrighty guys, that's gonna wrap it up for the video. We got the overheating issue figured out on the car. Didn't really film a whole lot of stuff. I had the water pump back off of this thing, the thermostat out of it. Just kind of put it all back together and rebled it one more time. And all seems good. So I don't know exactly what the issue was. I had the thermostat out. I put a really small pinhole in it just to help bleed the system a little easier. And had the water pump on and off just to make sure that the fins weren't busted off on the water pump. And they were not. So that was not the issue. But now, like I said, I drove the car, ran it for like an hour and a half, and no overheating at all. Good heat in the car, nothing in the overflow. Kind of a weird situation here, but all seems good now, so I think it's fine. Honestly, I think it's good. I think it was just a little fluke of bleeding the air bubbles out of the system. So I think that was a big issue here, but nonetheless, the car is running very well now and drives down the road like factory and is on 7 pounds of boost. Very happy. Thanks for watching. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. We will see you later.